What is going on, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be previewing the 2025 college football schedule for the Miami Hurricanes. I'm going to go through every single game on their schedule and predict their record for 2025. Miami has had a lot of ups and downs this offseason, but when you look at the roster talent, it is definitely there. And they do have the potential, if you look at the talent, to be a deep playoff contender. This is a team that can realistically win the ACC. But can Mario Cristobal put it all together? That's the question that is to be asked. Last season, if they just had a somewhat average defense, they probably would have won the ACC. But they had a very bad defense, one of the worst in the ACC. But they did manage to win double digit games because they had an electric offense with Cam Ward at quarterback, a Heisman finalist. But ultimately, a lot of that offensive talent is gone from last season. They lost a lot of their top receivers, including Xavier Restrepo. They lost Damian Martinez and, of course, Cam Ward. They lost some elite tight ends as well. So they really have to replace pieces, but they did an excellent job in the portal. And more specifically in the spring transfer portal, definitely improving the receiving core, which was desperately needed. But earlier in the offseason, they managed to get Carson Beck, a guy that is trying to get back on the right track after a pretty down season at Georgia. He's a guy that had big numbers in 2023, but last season he took a step back. But in 2025, he's going to be playing against weaker defenses, and I can see Carson Beck being a Heisman finalist if he puts it all together. Carson Beck was definitely a bit overrated last season, but he went from being overrated to now underrated, in my opinion. And he's got some receivers to back him up. He's got the young Josiah Trader. CJ Daniels is a top pickup at wide receiver. And they also got one of the best receivers from the Big 12 in Keelan Marion, and a good receiver from the Big 12 as well in Tony Johnson. So they have playmakers joining the team and a pretty solid offensive line and a good backfield with Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle. But losing Martinez was huge. Overall, I think the offense is going to be pretty good again. Probably not as good as last season, though. And defensively, I don't know if they're going to put it all together, but I think they have the potential to be one of the most improved defenses in the nation. They have a revamped secondary, adding some four stars like Jacoby Thomas, Zachariah Poyser, Xavier Lucas, and Charles Brantley. All those guys are projected starters. They also got a pretty good front seven, and Ruben Bain Jr. is one of the best defensive edges in the country. Like I said, the talent is there, but the secondary needs to take a step forward. And how will all these new faces fit in? Miami is a team that could completely flop, but I could also see them putting it all together and having a big season and surprising some people. But without further ado, let's get into predicting their schedule. They open the season with a home game against Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a team that went to the national title last season. They were the runner up. Now, look, I could not bet on Notre Dame losing this game, even on the road in week one. I think they have a very well rounded roster and they have a lot more returning than Miami does. I think they also have the better coaching staff, and I don't think the road test is going to be too tough for them. Notre Dame is a team that has a great offensive line and one of the best backfields in the whole country, with Jeremiah Love, the best running back in the country, and also Jadarian Price. They also improved the receiving core, and they could legitimately be four deep at wide receiver, one of the more underrated receiver cores in the nation, adding Will Pauling and Malachi Fields, and also they get Jordan Faison back. And defensively, we know what to expect with this brand. They had a great defense last season. Leonard Moore and Christian Gray are both back in the secondary. But don't expect a big drop off from this defense, and honestly, I'm expecting the offense to be better, especially with an improved receiving core. I think they're going to be even better next season, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went back to the Natty. Ultimately, it is going to be tough to do it 2 seasons in a row. There's going to be some teams that get in their way, but I think Notre Dame is just the more physical team, and I think they have the better all around roster. And I don't see Miami winning this game in week one. Give me Notre Dame. I have Miami moving to 0-1. Miami will then get Bethune-Cookman at home, and this is a horrific team. They are very bad. They went 2-10 at the FCS level last season. And this team is so bad, they scored a combined 5 points in the first two games against USF and Mercer last season. But regardless, it is an FCS school. Miami's way more talented. Give me Miami to win this game and move to 1-1. Miami will then play South Florida at home. South Florida has to be one of the more intriguing group of five teams. They had that weird loss on the road at Rice, but outside of that loss last season, they were very good. All of the teams they lost to were either good Power 4 teams or top notch in the Conference of the American. So South Florida went 7-6 last season. They had a good bowl win. This is a team that I was pretty high on last season. They underperformed a little bit, but they are top 10 in the nation in return in production heading into this season, and they got Byron Brown back at quarterback. I think the dude has big potential if he can stay 100% healthy. He's a dangerous dual threat quarterback. Look, I was buying into the hype with South Florida last season, and I'm doing it again this season. I like their head coach in Alex Golesh. They have good talent and recruit at a good level. Next season could be a good year for them, but regardless, I don't see them beating Miami. Miami wins this game and moves to 2-1. Miami will then get the Florida Gators at home in a rematch from last season, in a game that Miami destroyed this Florida team. But it definitely was a different scenario. Florida was the home team, and they had a bunch of question marks with Bill and Napier. But next season, they will play closer to mid-season, and it won't be just in week one. And I like this Florida team a lot. I think they have a solid roster, and of course, DJ Lagway at quarterback. And I think Florida's secondary is one of the best in the SEC. I think their defense was playing at a very good level last season, and they return a lot of that production. They have a good line of scrimmage. I think they'll be able to keep this game close. In fact, I'm going to say Florida can get this win on the road. I think Florida will avenge their loss from last season. Miami should be a talented team, but they still have question marks in the secondary, and they just lost so much on offense. I think they lose this game, and they will move to 2-2. Following the bye week, they will go on the road to play Florida State. This is actually their first road game, so it could be a tricky one, especially if Florida State is a better team next season. This team has been good before with Mike Norvell. They had a double-digit win season 2 years ago, but all of that talent left, and they went terribly downhill last season, going 2-10. But next season, I expect to bounce back in a bowl game for them at least. The receiving room's looking all right with guys like Deuce Robinson and Squirrel White coming in. I think Castellanos will be an upgrade at quarterback. Defensively, they should be all right as well. But I still think they're steps behind the top teams in the ACC like Miami. I think Miami will win this game on the road and move to 3-2. This is a very weird place to have another bye week. They had a bye week before the Florida State game, and then they have a bye week right after that game, and they play Louisville at home. Look, realistically, Miami should win this game. They have it at home. But they struggle off of bye weeks, and they have 2 bye weeks in a 3-week span. That's going to be tough. And honestly, I think Louisville is going to be a pretty darn good team next season. Miller Moss should sling the ball at quarterback. And they got one of the top receiving corps in the ACC. And of course, they got a young stud at running back in Isaac Brown. They'll have a very good offense. I expect Louisville to be one of those dark horses in the ACC and a pretty good team. And Miami does struggle off of bye weeks. I'm going to say they get upset in this game at home and move to 3-3. That would not be a great first half of the season. But in the back half of the schedule, it will get easier. The following week, they will get Stanford at home, and I expect them to bounce back in this game. Stanford is a team that just has a lot of question marks. They do have some solid young returning talent. I don't think people realize how young they were last season. One of the younger teams in the country. They showed some good things on defense. They had that win over Syracuse. I wouldn't be surprised if they managed to get a couple more wins on the schedule. Definitely with the home field advantage, but this is not the place to do it. Give me Miami to win this game and move to 4-3. This will be one of Miami's bigger tests, probably their last ranked matchup. They will play SMU on the road. Look, I've had them lose 3 games at home. In the back half of the schedule, they have a bunch of road tests. But I do think they're going to be playing their best football in the back half of the season. Especially after having a tough start to the season. They had some tough losses and they were tested. But they got to win one of these big games. And SMU is a team that should be good again. But I don't think Kevin Jennings is as good as people think he is at the quarterback position. And they lost some good running backs. And I don't think SMU is going to make their way back to the playoffs. I think Miami can get this win and move to 5-3. Miami will then play Syracuse at home, and Syracuse is a team I am expecting a huge step back from. And I'm thinking they're going to miss a bowl game pretty easily with the brutal schedule, one of the toughest in the country. I think Graham Brown has this team heading in the right direction for the future, but this offseason he didn't have a great portal class, and they have to reload a lot. They lost Kyle McCord, they lost their top running back, they lost all of their top receivers, they lost Rondo Gadsden at tight end, they lost some elite playmakers on defense. Really, from top to bottom, they lost so much, and I don't expect them to be as good as they were last season. Miami should be able to win this game and move to 6-3. Miami will then get NC State at home. NC State's a pretty interesting team. They were one of my favorite ACC teams last season with the transfer additions that they had, but they certainly underperformed. Dave Doran definitely didn't live up to his standard there, but he has been a winner at NC State, and this team never stays down. And I could see them taking a step forward next season, especially after that bad bowl loss. CJ Bailey is a good young quarterback. They also got a good young running back in Hollywood Smothers, so that's a good 1-2 right there. The receiving core does lose Casey Concepcion, but they got Wesley Grimes and Noah Rogers, and the defense should be okay. This could be a tough one for Miami, but they have it at home. I think they'll be able to win it and move to 7-3. Now, Miami is going to have some tough games to end the season, 2 back-to-back road games. And firstly, they will have a road game at Virginia Tech. Miami struggled with these late season games last season. They lost 2 of them that knocked them out of the playoffs. But honestly, I expect next season to be a different story. They have a lot of talent that really needs to get going, and I think it could take them a couple of weeks. And being battle tested early in the season is going to help them out a lot. Because last season, Miami really didn't play anybody. But I do expect Miami to get this win at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech should be okay again, but they lose a lot of their good receivers. And they're just not super talented either. Give me Miami to win this game and move to 8-3. Miami will finish the season with a road game at Pitt. Pitt is a team that I think could be hit or miss next season. They could have a huge bounce back, or they could just completely flop and miss a bowl game. I think they do have some of the pieces necessary. Eli Holstein is a good quarterback, and Desmond Reed is one of the best running backs, honestly, in the country. He's underrated, maybe even top 10. They had a very bad second half of the season. They struggled with injuries. The coaching staff was still trying to figure it out. But they have a lot of their playmakers back from last season. But I am going to say Miami is the way better team. Give me Miami to win this game on the road and finish the season with a 9-3 record. Going 7-1 in conference play, that could definitely get them in the ACC title. So yeah, I technically have them taking a step back record-wise, but I really don't expect them to be worse than they were last season. I think they're going to have a better defense and a bit worse of an offense. I think they're going to be at the top of the ACC for a while. But can Mario Cristobal get over the hump and start winning the big games and make this team a legit playoff contender? Next season will be an interesting year to see if they can do that. So yeah, I have them at 9-3, but I'm really thinking this team is a playoff contender, especially if they can win the ACC. But you guys let me know what you think about the Miami Hurricanes down in the comments below. Now let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing and also consider checking out my socials down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.